Alright, what's up y'all? It's been a minute. Hope everyone's been chilling. I haven't posted in a while because number one, I was on vacation, and number two, I got sick after, so I was bedridden. And number three, Silk Song came out, so I've been Silk maxing playing that game every day while I was bedridden. Anyways, first of all, thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. I started this channel just for fun, and the fact that it's growing little by little is very cool. With that being said, some of my subscribers suggested doing a tier list for Weak Hero, so yeah, let's get started. Much like my other videos, I'll be explaining the tiers and shit, and saving my opinions on the show at the end of the video. Alright, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to be grading the characters mainly based on how much I like them, how much they stand out, and how good their overall character concept was. In this show, I think the characters are all decent at best. Like, I don't think any of the characters are straight poo-poo, but a good amount of the cast was basic as fuck and hold very little complexity. So I guess I'll shape my tier list around that. So D tier is for characters that I just didn't really fuck with. Like I said, I don't think any of these characters were poorly written, but they're definitely not amazingly scripted either. So this tier is just for characters that I thought were just kind of lame. C tier is for characters that were just whatever. Like, they did their thing and that's about it. B tier is for characters that I thought were decent, like I'm cool with what they did, but nothing too great about them. A tier is for characters I generally liked, and S tier is for characters that stood out the most in my opinion. Alright, I loosely ordered the characters based on how much they are related throughout the show, so let's first start the video off with these basic ass bullies. So first off, we got this kid here named Jung Chan. He's that sidekick motherfucker that's always hanging around with the buff ass dude and the main bully dude that ends up transferring out. Yeah, nothing really too interesting about him. This guy talks a lot for someone who seems like the weakest in the group, not gonna lie. But the way he talks is kind of funny. He also has that one moment where he snitches hella fast when he's getting checked by Su Ho. This motherfucker switching up on his day ones 100%. Anyways, he's going to C tier. Alright, next up we got this buff-ass motherfucker right here, Tae Hoon. So yeah, similar to the other sidekick motherfucker, he also didn't really stand out that much, but I swear this motherfucker is a little too docile compared to his size. Like, shouldn't this dude be the main bully? Dude's built pretty crazy for a high schooler. But yeah, he gets stabbed in the hands early on in the show and trips the fuck out every time he sees the main character. And later in the show, he's out here getting lit, clubbing and hazing my boy Bum Seok. These scenes didn't really make sense to me, because what club is letting these high schoolers in? Would make a lot more sense if they were in college, but Korea for some reason never makes any college stories. It's always some generic high school bullying shit. Anyways, he'll go to C tier too. He was whatever. Okay, moving on to the main bully dude, Youngbin. For a character that was supposed to rival the main character early in the show, he was kinda underwhelming and lame as hell, I can't even lie. Like, the show starts off by the main character Si Eun mogging the dude by getting first place in the math competition compared to the bully's third, so I thought we were gonna have some good rivalry going on. But throughout the early phase of the show, he's just being annoying as fuck, always relying on others to get back at Si Eun instead of doing things for himself. And then he truly fucks up by ordering Bum Seok to slap a patch of that Fent to Si Eun, and then later proceeds to get his jaws absolutely smacked by a book on some John Wick shit. That shit was so satisfying. And then he makes the day one mistake of forgetting to hide the evidence, as he has a whole stack of Fent in his backpack. Like, at this point, the dude just wanted to be arrested. Like, here you go, here's all the evidence. And then he transfers out and disappears for a good amount of the show until the end, where yet again, he relies on this other fighter dude to do the work for him. So yeah, all around a bitch-made dude. Not a very interesting character. I'm gonna give him a D tier. Alright, next up is Seok Dae, who's this errand boy that Youngbin knows. He's the one that provided him with a Fent and later got hired to slime Si Eun. First thing I noticed about this guy was that, damn, this dude is full of testosterone. He got a mad deep voice. He was kind of cool, I guess, looking out for his squad, but he's also kind of a whore just doing shit for money. Definitely not a good person. Later in the show, he gets into a fight with Si Eun and Su Ho and admits defeat, which was respect. And then finally, when they get into an altercation with the gangster dude, he stands up for himself and that girl Youngie, so he gets his redemption arc there too. And after that, he vanishes from the show, so nothing too crazy, but he was cool for the time he was on screen. I'll give him a B tier. Alright, next up is Youngie, the only relevant female character in this show. So she first starts off like a sly ass bitch, working for the ops as a typical token girl in a group of delinquents. She's like stealing makeup products and shit, and then approaches my boy Si Eun. I guess she has some charisma to her because she somehow got Si Eun to stay during their whole ordeal at the beginning. Like, the Si Eun I know would have dipped frame 1, but anyway, it turns out she's like a runaway kid who just unfortunately ended up with some bad people. She builds the courage to take the gangster motherfucker it down and gets into some action herself. She definitely has the balls to curse out her ops on some Shibar Karseki type shit. And then yeah, she just becomes a part of the friend group now, which is cool. However, she be yapping a little too much because she be leaking every single info out there. Also, I didn't really like the way she handled the whole situation where Bum Seok was calling Suho out. Like, I get that you didn't want to trouble Suho on his own birthday, but how could you just face the ops by yourself like that? Basically donating yourself at this point. Still, she turned out to be a good kid who just happened to grow up in the wrong environment. Then she finds a group of people that she can call friends and sticks up for them. I found her character arc pretty respectable. I'll give her the A tier. Alright, next up is Gil Su, this gangster motherfucker. Honestly, a pretty generic character, just a classic street thug scum. In my opinion, the whole arc with him was alright, but kinda stupid in some aspects, especially the whole promoting the gambling app to a bunch of high school kids. Like, this makes almost no sense. Bro's targeting the wrong market. The fuck is he gonna do with a small portion of high schoolers that begs their parents for lunch money that's actually going to fund their baccarat maxing? But also, it's easier to deal with kids, I guess, so whatever. Anyways, I thought Bro was gonna be a bitch, all bark, no fight. All cock no cum, but he actually got some fight in him, which made things a little bit more interesting. Not the best villain, but he was a decent character for the time being, I guess, so I'll put him in B tier for now. Alright, next up is Woo Young, the MMA fighter prospect dude. He just gets hired to beat up Suho, and it turns out he took a massive L from Suho early on in his career, so there's some lore built in. I'll be real, there's like no depth to this character, but the fight that he had with Suho was actually pretty sick, because it was actual sparring and not some bullshit. Well, it wasn't bullshit until that buff dude cheated by helping from the side of that ring. That shit was bitch made as fuck. And then he gets absolutely shit on by Seun at the end of the show. That shit was pretty brutal. I'll put him in low B tier. Alright, next up is his lawyer henchman dude of the Assemblyman. So yeah, he just appears every now and then, just covering crime after crime. It's motherfuckers like this that make it possible for these corrupt ass politicians to keep getting away with their bullshit. But I gotta be honest, he got some aura to him. Like, he just mogs the gangster dude so bad when he got arrested. And then he later covers up Suo's assault pretty cleanly. That was kind of fucked up. I would have preferred if he taught those high school bullies a lesson. But that probably wouldn't really make sense based on his character concept. But yeah, he just kind of did his thing. I'll put him in C tier. Alright, moving on, we have the Assemblyman, who is Bum Seok's dad. So yeah, another super generic character we got here, the overly corrupt politician. They could have built his character more, but he just shows up every now and then, either trying his best to appear as an angel on live television, or beating the absolute fuck out of Bum Seok, no in between. Bro just picks up a golf club and starts swinging at Bum Seok's cheeks, looking like he's trying to go for an eagle or something. And then at the end of the show, he was first trying to put Seun behind bars for the whole altercation with Bum Seok and Suho, but changed his mind because Seun was willing to shut his mouth like a good little boy. Anyways, yeah, not a very interesting character. Was kind of lame if I'm gonna be real. He was just there to provide context for Bum Seok's backstory. I'll put him in D tier. Alright, I don't know why she's even in this tier list. This is Suho's grandma, who appeared for like 3 seconds at the end when Suho became hospitalized. I'll just put her in C tier. She's a character that's in the show. Alright, next is Seun's dad. So yeah, he's also just kind of there every now and then. I low-key don't even know what his job is. I think he's some martial arts fighter or some shit. But he just leaves his own son in the dust like every other day. Like, I'm surprised he even remembers his own son's name. He doesn't know anything about what the fuck is going on with his son's life. But honestly, I'd give him a little bit of slack. He still seems like he cares a little bit. He's just kind of incompetent. And it seems like he's still by his son's side, even though his son terrorized an entire school. But for good reasons. He was whatever. I'll give him a C tier. Alright, the mom, on the other hand, is just like the dad, except she gives even less of a fuck. I swear in the show, the main character physically met his mom like twice, and the rest of the time he's just watching her Zoom lectures. And then that one time the mom does end up seeing her son, she fucking dips after like 30 seconds of talking to him, saying how she got a meeting. And then at the end she's like, hey, you want me to go into class with you? And Seun's like, hell no. Honestly, yeah, I didn't really fuck with the mom, even though she was kind of a baddie. I'll put her in D tier. Alright, moving on to one of the 3 main characters. We got Bum Seok here. He transfers out of his old school because his life there was absolutely miserable. This new school that he transferred to is still ass, but I guess it's not as bad. He already becomes Youngbin's target and receives his first side quest to slap that fen patch onto Seun. So he does exactly that and slaps the shit out of Seun. Later in the show, he feels bad, so he tries to make it up by helping Seun as best as possible when he's getting jumped. Throughout that experience, they form a friendship that lasted a good 3 minutes before Bum Seok started tweaking the fuck out. He's like, Suho, that fucking bitch, he doesn't follow me back on Instagram. Honestly, kind of real shit. I remember back in high school, I thought whoever didn't follow people back were a bunch of bitches. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? I'm trying to be your friend, I'm not trying to be your fan. Also, he gets hella tilted at Suho always putting his arms around him, which I mean is kind of understandable too, like Suho's basically asserting dominance. Still, his reaction was a bit too irrational, because at the end of the day, Suho helped you a lot, man, especially when you met your old bullies again. I thought that part of the drama was going to be a school versus school warfare, but it turns out the other bullies are a bunch of betas. Anyways, Bum Seok slowly starts to hate Suho and even switch teams, hanging out with Jung Chan and the buff dude. I like how he was complaining that he didn't want to be bitched around by Suho, just to indirectly be bitched around by a different group, since bro's paying for every single night out possible. And yeah, at the end of the show, he pays the MMA dude and puts out a hit on Suho, but then instantly regrets it after Suho nearly dies. I really thought Bum Seok, Seun, and Suho were gonna be the bestest buddies together, but I did not expect the show to completely degenerate Bum Seok's character like that. But also, I'm just saying, a trio of friends usually never works out. It's usually the case that two people are a lot closer than the third. Anyways, I didn't like how Bum Seok turned out, but I understand his character concept. Like, if I was getting my shit rocked by my Satan politician dad on the regular, then I also would not be in the right state of mind. Anyways, not the biggest fan of the dude, but the character was decently written overall, so I'll put him in B tier. Next up is Suho, who by the way kinda looks like Park Seroi from Itaewon Class. This dude was probably the chillest and the sickest motherfucker in the show, cause he's basically hibernating throughout the entire semester, but he still got the skills to fight pretty much everyone. Also, bro's working like 10 jobs after school. Like, how's this motherfucker gonna graduate? Dude's GPA is for sure no more than 1.0. I really respect the dude's confidence, but also that bit where he goes into the gangster's house by himself was such a terrible idea. Like, dude, I get that you're a good fighter and all, but what kind of high schooler just voluntarily goes face to face with a gangster by himself? Anyways, like I mentioned earlier, Suho and Bum Seok start beefing, and the situation gets escalated pretty quickly. I felt bad for him, because for his birthday, he just ends up eating and sleeping by himself. Remember when Seun wanted to keep the whole situation secret from Suho, but Suho ends up finding out anyways? I respected the fact that Suho still pretended that he didn't know anything when he goes to say hi to Seun. Anyways, he spars with the MMA dude and almost dies. I deadass thought he was actually dead, but then I remembered he appears in season 2 and I was like, alright, he's good. Without this dude, this show wouldn't have been nearly as interesting, so I'm gonna put him in S tier. He carried the show. And finally, we have the main character, Seun. So to summarize, he's basically the smartest kid in class, but he keeps getting picked on by bullies in school because of his small build. And he's not a particularly strong individual either, like he's finishing last in the school race, gasping for air. And then one day he gets Fent put in his system and becomes a fucking superhero. I don't know, I'm not fully sure what his character concept's supposed to be, but he suddenly becomes a G, always clicking that pen around and giving his bullies a panic attack. That one scene where he takes revenge by beating the shit out of Youngbin was so fucking satisfying. But yeah, usually bullies would stop when you let them know you ain't playing around. But for some reason, the show keeps giving my boy waves of boss fights like he's fighting gangsters and MMA fighters and shit. And while he gets into fights, he does multivariable calculus, quantum physics, and recites historic battle scriptures or some shit. I was like, no way this shit actually works. Towards the end of the show, he literally becomes John Wick and decides to slime every single op. Like the fight with the MMA fighter where he bashes the dude's ankles with the dumbbells, like holy fuck. And then he transfers to what looks like the Korean version of Compton High School, and now he has to repeat this miserable cycle all over again. If I was him, I would definitely either kill myself or blow up the school. Thank God guns are illegal in Korea, or else I feel like half of their education system will be gunned down, which is basically what happens in this recent Netflix drama called Trigger. Like bullied students get access to guns and start shredding everyone, which is also basically what happens in America. Shit is just fucked up. Anyways, I liked him as a main character overall, but I'm still not a fan of how he was a wimp and then suddenly becomes goated once he gets drugged. I'm not sure if it's intentional or coincidental, but the Korean title of this drama is 약한 영웅, which directly translates to weak hero. But the Korean word 약한 can also refer to doing drugs. Anyways, even though he appears cold at times, he seems like a genuine caring dude when you get to know him, so I'll put him in A tier. Alright, that's the end of the tier list. A quick review of the show here. So overall, I did enjoy the show. Similar to All of Us Are Dead though, this is one of those dramas that you just kind of watch because it's not like a masterpiece by any means. It's just a decent show to turn on. Some of y'all probably already know this, but I'm not particularly a fan of dramas and movies with school bully settings because I think it's just super basic, overdone, and sometimes hella unrealistic. If you want to watch some OG Korean high school story, I would highly recommend this movie called Once Upon a Time in High School. This is probably the most famous and iconic school story movie in Korea. I mean, even Weak Hero directly referenced the scene from that movie at the end when Seon breaks the windows and starts crashing the fuck out. Anyways, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if y'all want a tier list for Weak Hero Class 2 as well. Alice in Borderland Season 3 is coming out this month as well, so I'm excited for that. I'm probably going to make videos related to Silksong as well. So far, I am in love with the game, even though some of the aspects of the game are some of the most horseshit I've witnessed in my years of video gaming. Alright, that's enough for the outro. Thank you for watching, and also again, thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers. See ya!